All the votes having been tabulated, there were 840 votes cast. 273 were counted aye, 567 were counted no. The two-thirds threshold was 560 of the 840. The motion fails.
Okay, folks. The motion fails, folks.
So, Mr. Palzer, do you have a point of order, point of information? State your point, Mr. Palzer.
Microphone.
I'm sorry. Please turn microphone 3 on.
That one's on. It's like hot.
State your point.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, everyone. We need to know that the initiative to repeal the top 2 is alive and well.
Is this a point of information?
Yes, yes, sir. Because it's important to know that it's alive and well, qualified within a week, and petitions will still go out in every county to defeat the top 2. Thank you.
Yeah. So then I have to ask.
Okay, this is the 8th time I've stood before you since my election in March of 2013. And many of those times I told you I was looking for ways to re-engineer our conventions. Those of you who are new may not know that we didn't do a lot of audio-visual before. We do that now. We have 4 conventions. We have 3. We still have the basic format, but I've always said that having been a young person myself who couldn't afford to go see all the speakers because I couldn't afford to pay the tickets, I wanted to find a way of raising enough registration, raising enough sponsorship money so we could do something different. Conventions are expensive. So if you were here yesterday, you got treated to what I hope you enjoyed, our Saturday speaker series.
Yeah, that was really good.
If you didn't make it, you might take a look. This is the first of our Saturday speaker series. It's the first time we've done it at the convention. So I'm really thrilled that we have some really great speakers today. Gosh, who would have known there were so many deplorable people in California? Congratulate yourself. But you are redeemable. You are redeemable.
You know, the American people elected Donald Trump. My friend, Donald Trump, because they believe in law and order, and truth and justice.
Yes, and no sanctuary cities.
You feel it, that it's helpless or it's hopeless.
Starting to feel it.
Because it's not. We elected Donald Trump.
What happened there?
Who thought that man would be elected president of the United States? Nobody.
The liberals say we can't afford a tax cut. That's nonsense. We can't afford not to do the tax cut. And here's why. By the way, the projecting that the U.S. economy out here in the next 20 years will grow 1.8%. Hell no! This is America. We're not going to grow 1.8%. We can't accept that. We're going to grow 3.5%, or 4%. It's not necessary that we all agree how we spend our free time or organize our life. We simply have to agree that the government should be small enough to leave the rest of us alone, keep the Canadians on their side of the border, and move forward from there. We do our job right. We say no to taxes and keep to it. And don't give them additional money to spend. Then all our friends on the left around their table begin to look at each other a little bit more like the second to the last scene in those lifeboat movies. Now they're wondering who to eat or who to throw overboard.
Here's really what we believe. We believe America is the greatest country in the history of the world. We believe the Constitution is the greatest political document ever written by man. That socialism is a great core of humanity and must be stopped at every turn. And solve poverty and ensure prosperity for all. That's it. That's what we believe in our organization, right? It's not that controversial. They want to turn America into the European Union. And as long as I'm fighting, we're not going to let that happen. We're not going to let that happen here. We're not going to let that happen in my lifetime. It's not going to happen.
So, your job is to make sure you get out there in whatever way you can. Because you're on the right side of justice. You're on the right side of history and the right side of America.
Delegates wanted to amend Mr. Jordan's resolution. I just want to read from our platform that further we believe that federal funding should be denied to sanctuary cities that refuse to cooperate with immigration officials. That is in our platform. Our platform is more important than a resolution. So notwithstanding that issue, we've already adjudicated that. We adjudicated that a couple of years ago. Was fantastic. Now it's time for our volunteer organization committee report. Paul Cummings, our volunteer organization chair, will come to the podium and give you the report.
I'm lucky. I get to talk about measurable growth in the Republican Party. On September 20, 2017, the Volunteer Organizations Committee received a petition from the California Republican Veterans Association, which happens to be chaired by San Mateo County's Chuck McDougall, for a biennial certification of good standing as required by Section 3.01D of the party bylaws. The committee conducted its required investigation. During the review, it verified that the California Republican Veterans Association met the requirements of having 3 chapters recognized by 3 county Republican parties in 3 of the 8 regions of our party, had a minimum of 10 chapters comprised of 10 registered Republicans each, and a statewide membership of a minimum of 200 persons. The California Republican Veterans Association submitted its bylaws, governing documents, endorsements from county parties, the names and addresses of its officers and members, which were verified through PDI and phone calls by members of the Volunteer Organizations Committee. Upon completion of this thorough review, the Volunteer Organizations Committee met on October 20. The members in attendance voted unanimously to inform the party secretary that the California Republican veterans were in good standing. 3 chartered organizations of the party, the Asian American Republican Council of America, the Vietnamese Republican Club of California, and the Republican Hispanic Association, remain on probation. The committee will continue to work with these important organizations to bring them back into good standing. This concludes the committee report.
Now, that committee report does not need to be adopted because the function was ministerial. Let me walk you through how this differs from what has happened in the past. We charter organizations. Committees do not have the ability to act on their own. The Rules Committee recommends to the floor. The Resolutions Committee recommends to the floor. The Volunteer Committee recommends to the floor. And you all get to approve or disapprove the report, approve part of it, take part of it out, as we've just gone through. The Republican Veterans was already a charter organization, but they fell out of compliance because they failed to meet certain thresholds. The committee did not come to you and say, vote them out of compliance. They just fell out of compliance, and they were deemed to be out of compliance because compliance is a ministerial act, and you've already granted them the charter. They wanted to get out of compliance, so they met all the requirements for compliance. The committee met and deemed them to be compliant. They recommended to the secretary. It's the secretary's job to make sure they're compliant. It is a ministerial function, and they met that ministerial function. So we're not creating anything new. We're simply taking an organization slide once again with our 4 speaker series. And they were just great. If you didn't know Judge Janine, and she filmed her show from Los Angeles, Santa Monica. And I always believe in giving credit where credit is due. For those of you who are not in the speaker series, when we started to talk about this, you know, we're a team up here. We don't always agree. Trust me. If you agree, we don't always agree. And we spend more time with each other. I said, you know, it would be really great if we could get Judge Janine. I just think Harmeet said, oh, she's a friend of mine. Why would I call her? So thank you, Harmeet, for that. Steve Moore, if you see him, he's on Fox News all the time. He was part of President Trump's campaign. He's a brilliant economist. Sean Steele had him at one of our conventions so many years ago, and that's the first time we had a chance to see him, and he's brilliant. Grover Norquist. How many of you guys love Grover Norquist? When you get old enough, you accumulate some friends and you accumulate enemies. Actually, in politics, friends come and go. Enemies just accumulate. In 1981, when I was a junior nobody, my office at the Republican National Committee was right next to Grover Norquist, who was a junior nobody. So I've known Grover since 1981. When the Soviets shot down the Korean airliner, we went and protested at the Soviet embassy. I was so upset. You can tell I get emotional from time to time. I guess we got too close to the embassy. Someone tried to pull me back. I reared off, ready to hit him. Grover stopped me. Good thing, because it happened to be a cop. So not only have I known Grover, but he probably kept me out of jail. And Charlie Kirk, I don't know if you have a chance to know Charlie Kirk. This is a group who believes in free enterprise and markets and freedom, and they go on college and high school campus. And they're taking our message to the young folks. We were talking about, why don't we get Charlie Kirk? And I think it was later that day, someone from his organization called and said, hey, we'd like to come to your convention. Great, perfect. So we had a pretty good time there. Now, in less than 2 weeks, the Democrats' new gas tax is going to kick in. You may have seen some of these signs. Okay, gas tax repeal. Democrats' tax increase off our backs. The Democrats, on an almost straight party line vote, voted to raise gas prices 12 cents. Unless you drive a diesel, it's 20 cents. It goes up, and then there's a car tax on top of that. That goes into effect on November 1st. You know, the press always asks me what your position is on this. And I don't like to assert positions that you haven't directed me to take. Because you didn't elect me to freelance, you elected me to speak on your behalf. So there are a couple initiatives going down. I'd just like to ask you all right now, how many of you believe that California voters ought to have a right to vote on tax increases just like Jerry Brown said we did when we were running, when he was running for governor? And how many of you believe that we ought to repeal the gas tax? If you believe in those two things, why don't you stand up? Now, we've been working through our COP committees and our CRP regional vice chairs.
Okay, folks, I'm going to be signing out. Thanks.